Welcome to the Healed Approach podcast, the place where bold ideas meets real action in sustainability, inclusion, and innovation. I'm Rebecca Heald, and each episode I sit down with industry trailblazers from architects and construction leaders to change makers across the board to uncover transformative strategies driving a greener, more equitable future. Whether you're here to learn about passive house standards, embodied carbon, or how inclusion sparks innovation, this is the podcast to inspire your next big move. Ready to challenge the status quo? Let's get started. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Healed Approach podcast, where today I am really excited to be joined by Ron Beattie. He is the director of Beattie. So Ron, over to you. Please, can you tell listeners what it is that Beattie is, who you are, and what you are doing in the industry?
Okay, nice to meet you. Yeah, thank you for letting me come on. Yeah, some sort of 17 years ago, I was a small property developer, really interested in the way we build homes, the way we build them, why we can't get homes to be built to the quality that we design them at, why our houses leak and it costs us a fortune to heat them, even though we try very hard to put lots of insulation in and make them as airtight as possible. So it started me on a journey 17 years ago when I was trying to build one of the first co-sustainable homes, which was the government's new sort of flagship way of building homes. And I decided to take the mantle on and buy a small development in Norwich and make that one of the first. So I went down to government, found out exactly how to do it. I spent a lot of time looking at off-site renewables and went ahead and developed this first set of 21 townhouses. About halfway through that, I walked around the scaffolding, and for some reason, I jumped up on the scaffold and I looked down the cavity. That's the gap between the two walls where I was expecting to see it fully insulated. And in fact, there wasn't a bit of insulation in it. So I was building one of the most greenish developments and sticking my name to it and spent 2 years in planning and design just to find out that one bricklayer decided, well, I'm building a wall, there's no insulation in it, I'll just carry on building. The bricklayer had been with me for 5 years and my site foreman had been with me for about 10 years. So when I'd done my nut and pulled them together and said, what's going on? One blamed the other because the insulation wasn't on site. The other one said, yes, it is, it's behind the container. And both of them just had no idea, really what importance this was. And of course, it was crucial. How do you build one of the most greenish developments when you have to rely on all these different people? Anyway, that sent me on a new journey because I then realized that it's impossible to expect that all these different people in a building site come together with the same ambition and drive that you have. It just doesn't work. And so what we found over the years is that the way that we build homes and the quality we're trying to build them at is just growing apart. So we've got a massive gap in exactly what's designed to what's delivered. The performance gap has just gone. And I thought to myself, why don't we build a system which can be built by anyone everywhere, that instead of putting a floor and a wall and a roof all built by different people, we have one person who can build the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And then we create a gap and we inject that gap, which goes along the floors, up the walls and across the ceiling or into the roof. And that's injected. So there's no gaps. And that reached a thing called passive house, which I was really interested in at the time. It's the energy performance criteria. It's the best you can get. And that means that your houses need 90% less energy. And so we went on to develop and become the only UK certified company from Germany to be passive house installer. So we created a new build system, and that build system builds new homes and also retrofits existing homes. So we take an existing house and put a new house over the top. And that's what we've been doing for the last 15 years, built over 600 homes across the UK in stick built, panel built, and now total modular.
Amazing. I mean, I talk a lot about passive house, and I still think that there is a lot of misunderstanding about it. There are a lot of different schools of thought around it. So I guess really what my first question is, like, when you decided to go down this route, what were the benefits that you started to experience?
First of all, why do we live in homes we need to heat?
Yeah.
When you're in your home now, okay, you're sitting in your nice place at the moment. The moment you go into the toilet, you put the fan on, and what happens is all the energy you've created is just pumped out into the atmosphere, causing climate change. You're paying every day you put money at winter time into that heating system, into your gas, into your electric, and basically goes through the building. Why do we do that? We don't need to. So Passive House creates a continuous insulated envelope, which is highly insulated. And then we ventilate with heat recovery ventilation. So 80, 90% of the energy that we've already created is reused time and time again. There's nothing special with Passive House. It's like black art. It's just building sensible houses the way that we design them all the time. So it really is a really simple process if you build a system that's ready to deliver that on every kind. Unfortunately, a lot of builders take it on and try to do it in traditional ways, and it becomes very difficult because the air tightness we're talking about goes down from something like 5 or 6 down to 0.6. So a massive difference in the air tightness. But if you create a build system which delivers it by default, then it's not a problem. And that's what we've done in Beattie.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point there that you mentioned about when we're trying to build it traditionally, and it becomes difficult. What do you feel are the difficulties that are experienced when we try to do it traditionally, and why are we trying to do it traditionally if that's the case?
Well, I think because building trade doesn't change.
Yeah.
We've laid one brick on top of the other since day dot, and we just want to carry on the way we do. We don't want to, you look at the way innovations happened in our mobile phones, in computers, in everything else, in building. It's hardly changed. And getting that to move and go forward is tremendous different. I've been driving 15 years, screaming about climate change, screaming about the way that we won't be going to Spain on our holidays coming up at 15, 20 years' time because it's going to be too hot and we've got wildfires everywhere. So, we are at this point where we've got to change. We've got no choice. And what we need to do is bring new young people into the industry that are going to embrace change and understand those processes. We at Beattie Passive have designed this process to really be for young people. So young people can come in the industry. We should be building across all the prisons in the UK should be delivering for nurses and doctors. And there should be a completely different way we build homes. We can't just continue the way we do it. So it is difficult when you're doing it in a brick by brick because you've got a lot of more different angles and bits to do. But in a new build system, it just works.
Can you explain? I mean, I want to come back to this thing about, because I talk about this a lot and I feel very passionate about, bringing, the younger generation into the industry because we need their diversity of thought, we need their innovation, we need their technical skills, etc. I also mean modern technology, the skills around that. But I think, can you explain it before we talk about that? Can you explain a little bit about this build system that you've got? I mean, you have a little bit, but can you tell us a little bit more about it?
No, absolutely. Well, it's nothing new. I mean, it's made from timber. We can make it out of steel. We can make it out of many materials, but it creates a void. You have two parts of it. One part here outside, one part inside, which is joined together with an applied gusset. And that creates a void. That's done in a computer. So we take your building, we then put that into our build system, and that then sends out a cutting list of all the materials, how much of those materials you need and how many you need. And basically, they're all built the same. So I built the first house some 15, 12, 13 years ago in my garage. You can build them anywhere. All you need is bench and then you can build it. We can set up an old factory, realistically a flying factory, about £2,500. That's how cheap it is to do. Once you've built that, then you'll get we do a training program, but basically you'll build that structure. We then send in an independent inspector to check that structure. That's injected then with insulation. So a company will come in who guarantee to fill it, and they will inject it from the other inside or outside. And that goes with lather, like a lather material that goes continually around that building. 300 mil of insulation, so 12 inch of insulation completely way around it. Once that's done, then we thermal image that building. So an independent inspector will come in, we heat the building up to 54 degrees, and then we thermal image the whole building to guarantee that it's gone everywhere. And then our air tightness that we put a layer around the inside, that is then air tested to guarantee that position. And then that building is then completed by any other trade.
Amazing. And how long
does it take compared to traditional building?
It is faster than traditional. So normally it's going to, I mean, in the modular case, we can build a complete unit in about 13 weeks. That's in the factory. But on site, it's probably down to about 17, 18 weeks.
Okay. And bearing in mind then that we've got this government target to build, is it 1.5 million homes or something? Yeah. Because obviously, we've got a housing crisis. Why are we not thinking more about this approach when it can, it's obviously something that can be done?
I've been fighting councils and government now for 13 years. I've had many meetings with ministers. I've had a housing minister come down and actually make a piece. And they all talk a good story. But unfortunately, no one wants to pick the mantle up and change things. It is so frustrating. If you sat back and looked at the amount of meetings we've had, for instance, we had one where we were called in by the Department for Levelling Up. And they said to us, we've got 27,000 refugees, Afghanistan refugees that came over when they were helping us, so that they were helping the army out. They all got administrated back into the UK. They're all in hotels. We've got to get them out.
Yeah, working with them.
So we recently have built out of Beattie Passive House, we built a development of apartments that you could pick up and then move. 3-story, lifts, shaft, all apartments, pick them up, move. So we said, we can do that. We could build them for you. If you've got the land, we could come along and build all these for you. And you could then have this in this location for 5 years, for 20 years, pick it all up and then move it.
Yeah.
I said, that sounds good. So we said, well, how much do you charge? How much does each person cost you? They said £27 per night per person. There's 27,000 of these. So we said, fine. So we done the calculations. We said, you give us the land and we can charge you £9 per night. Okay. And then at the end of the use of it. You have the building.
Yeah.
That's too complicated. We can't do that. Why is it too complicated? Well, because we haven't got a mechanism that allows us to do that, because and this is what you're up against. It just doesn't happen. So even though you can do things that will save a fortune, you could build these with young people, you could build them in prisons, you could do them for nothing. Nobody out there will pick the mantle up and say, we need to change this model.
It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, without going too much into it, I mean, I worked for local authority for a long time. I worked with, so as part of my role in education, I worked with these refugees and asylum seekers also. So I've been on the ground. I've seen it, and I think. But the difficulty thing is, it's like you said, it's like, oh, we don't have a process for this, or we don't have a structure for this. But this is what I mean about, like, the world is moving on, technology is moving on, people are moving on, yet we're still living or we're still working and developing businesses according to an old archaic model that's no longer fit for purpose.
It's not.
And I think it's interesting as well, because I just want to, and this does lead on to what we're talking about, young people, talking about diversity, because on those meetings, in the meetings that you're having, on those boards, those people making the decisions, how much diversity was there?
Well, I think the diversity bit probably isn't bad. It's the knowledge. It's the willingness to change. You can sit in many council meetings and the people have been briefed with a piece of paper. They don't really understand the outcomes and what they could achieve. We could put a factory anywhere, and we've tried it. We've tried it with different councils. Said, look, you can have your own residents building their own homes, creating their own wealth. Every pound they spend locally, you'll get £3 worth. It's £4 now, £4 back. That means for every house they build, it's free. It don't cost you a penny because you're putting it back in the community. Yeah. You can do it? Well, no, because they haven't got that channel. There's nobody saying that things are going to change and you're going to have to change with it. It's easy to say, let's just follow the status quo.
Yeah.
Why are we trying to change things?
Yeah.
We don't. I mean, we've had it in so many different guises. Every time you think something's going to happen, we can't procure you because you're not on the framework. How do you get on the fact where you can't? You've got only about 4 years for that to happen. We really want to use you, but we can't use you. So I know you're cheaper. I know you're better. You're creating homes, you're improving, but you can't use you. The whole system in construction is absolutely on the floor. We're building houses that are not fit for purpose, that are going to have to be retrofitted in the coming years. We are continuing to build rubbish, and we will continue to do so.
It's interesting, though, because I did want to talk about the cost, because I think there is also this perception that passive house is so much more expensive.
Yeah. Well, it was when it first started, because a lot of the windows and the units and the way it was done was more expensive. We built a system that already designed to deliver passive house. I designed it to deliver it. But now, I mean, most of the stuff you're getting back from the Institute is that it's no more than 10% more expensive, but on our site, we're actually cheaper than standard build and faster. But, you know, in the end of it, it's about, are you going to continually forever having to heat a space, or are you going to not? You know, I've got a house which is, I built 10 years ago. It's 8,000 square foot. It's 8 bedrooms. And it cost the client £280 last year to run. You know,
and I'm sat in my house freezing.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I've got one I retrofitted. One of my directors, we first done a retrofitting, and it's a 2,000 square foot home. We retrofitted it, T-coded it. He actually earned £17 last year.
Yeah,
he actually earned £17 living in his house. And if we can do that, if we can retrofit every building or T-code it, why aren't we starting? But you try. I mean, it's just doesn't happen. No one wants to embrace it. You know, it's like saying this light bulb's going to run forever. It's in no one's interest to have that light bulb, because we don't want it. We want to be able to replace that light bulb and keep going. And when I go to meetings and they say, well, you know, we can have this wonderful thing. Well, no, because what I want to do is I want to keep making reports and keep doing stuff all the time.
So what do you think? I mean, you mentioned about education, because you said it's not necessarily about the diversity. It's about, I think you're right. I do think it is about people, you know, being more aware and being more knowledgeable, the people that need to be.
It's being prepared to take a bit of a risk as well. Change is risk.
Yeah.
We are such a risk averse. You know, no one wants to make that decision. You know, no one wants to stick their head above the parapet and say, we're doing it, we need to move forward. The times that I've had where you get through one committee and you're going to get it, and it goes to the end and they say, oh no, you know, that's too risky. Our finance department won't allow us to do that, or and it just folds, and you spend years of time trying to get to the end. It just doesn't happen. Eventually it'll have to happen, because we've got no one to build anything. We cannot do it. We've got no young people in the industry. We are losing old gears like me all the time, and it won't happen, you know.
I mean, obviously, though, you've got people that are embracing it. You've got people, you know, that you are working with, and you know, where does that? Because you mentioned obviously about local authorities and the resistance to change there, which I absolutely get. But where are you? Who are you building for?
Okay, so, you know, at the moment we're just finishing off some private stuff, but we're just about to do some stuff in the Isle of Arle up in Scotland, where the Isles have got no builders, basically. It's a beautiful place to live, but, you know, builders are gold dust up there. So we're looking at how we can train new people on the island, young people to actually build on the island. They need to get more people across to the Hebrides and stuff like that. So, you know, that's a big, lots of distilleries up there. There's a lot of money in that area, but there's no builders, no homes. And the weather's terrible all the time, apart from, you know, odd days. So modular, again, offsite manufacture works well, these sorts of things. Doing stuff where T-cozy, so looking at how we retrofit existing homes, but also existing new buildings. So we're working on a project at the moment with Innovate UK, where we're creating digital twins and using AI. So we're taking town halls and we're looking at a digital twin of that town hall, and then putting different retrofit systems into that and seeing how they work digitally and how good they are. And that's all done in 3D. So we're scanning buildings and can come up with a 3D model really instantly, and then add all these interventions in and be able to tell clients how that's going to improve and go forward over years. So there's lots of new technologies and lots of new bits coming in.
Yeah, you know, and I think this is fascinating, because I think we need to be getting the younger generation know about this, to be aware of this, because still, I mean, I do a bit of work in schools. I've got young children. They have no idea. I mean, I talk about this all the time, and I'm sorry to bang on about this to anybody who's listened to a few of these podcasts, but I think, I think a lot of the challenges that you've explained, I think are well known. We know that there is a resistance to change. We know that we need to innovate in order to move forward. But I feel like, we need to be encouraging, like you already said, we need to be encouraging the younger generation into the industry. But the hardest thing is that they don't see. I mean, they've got no idea how we can use AI and technology in construction. It's still very traditionally, whenever we think about construction, whenever I talk to schools, whenever I talk to teachers, even parents still, they don't see the huge possibilities and opportunities that are in the construction industry.
No, but, when I done it was pretty shocking, really. I done a talk to all the education colleges in East Anglia. So going from Bedford and all the way around from Norwich. Done a talk to them and show them what we're doing and stuff. And there's like off-site manufacture, factory, come down and see it. Just come down and see what we're doing. Everyone, fantastic, lovely. So I set up a time. We invited everybody, right? Out of 13, how many turned up?
I'm scared to say 3.
0.
Oh, Jesus, really?
Now, what chance have you got if lecturers, and these are all the senior lecturers of their departments, right? Nobody turned up. Nobody's interested. Why? I don't want to learn something new. I don't want to have to do all this on my caseload. What reason? These are the people that are teaching the future of construction, and they couldn't even bother to come down and see what's going on.
Yeah.
It's absolutely sickening that you think that's the sort of thing that goes on.
I mean, sad to say. Yeah. I don't know what other word to say. I do know that there are plenty of people in higher education, in further education.
Of course there is. Yes.
That do, I know some locally. I know a guy who works at the college here. He heads up construction, local, Nick Beattie, and I know, and they're doing some work. They're looking at decarbonising the college and stuff like that. And I do still think, still there is still this stigma, there is still this resistance, there is still, unfortunately, still a lot of people that aren't on board. So I think, and I guess this is why I've asked you to come on the podcast. I guess this is why I'm talking about it, because we have to begin to have a mindset shift. We have to, and I think things are happening. You're doing amazing things that need to be out there. You need to be talking about these things that you're doing. We need to be spreading the word and telling schools about what it is that you are doing so that we can engage those young minds, bring them on board and slowly start to see change.
A lot of it is down to fear. A lot of it is the unknown. And it is difficult. There's no easy way to bring something new to the marketplace. There's no easy way to upset the apple cart, because we are upsetting the apple cart. Why redesign? The marketplace is that we redesign everything every time. We create a wheel, then we redesign the wheel, then we redesign the wheel, then we redesign the wheel. Well, we don't need to redesign the wheel. Every building's the same. It's all the same. So if you create one part and just use lots of parts, what you're doing? It's just simple. It makes common sense, but we don't want more common sense, because what we want to do is recreate the wheel, because we get paid to recreate the wheel. So there's lots of vested interest in everything we do. And you've got to understand that, there's no easy path, and we have to upset people, but that's innovation.
Yeah.
We know our AI is coming. AI will come. It will be a training model. It will do banks. It will do a lot of harm in the labour market, but also do a lot of good. So you've got to embrace these things. We're never going to, we are going to drive cars, get in them, they're going to drive us places. That's the future. So, we are in a phenomenal, exciting time, but we've got to realise that that's going to take time, where people are, a generation of my age have got to go, and then younger people will come through with more foresight and more gumption, I think, to make it happen.
Yeah, but we can't just assume that that's going to happen either. We need this generation to show the younger generation as well. And I mean, an interesting point, and one last point I want to make before we do wrap it up, is about how there are other countries in Europe that are miles ahead of us that are embracing this.
Yeah.
So what is it in the UK?
Absolutely. I mean, across Europe now, we're patented in many countries, our system. And, we're about to hopefully start out in Canada soon. Well, Europe is building passive house. Why wouldn't it? It's built to everyone. There's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of now. And so it is the future. We should not be building houses that are creating this great big problem we've got in climate change. And it's too late to stop it now. We're on a road, but we've got to try to reduce that harm. And we need to reduce fuel poverty, and we need to give people a safe house, and also a house that is going to be able to be changed and altered over its lifetime, which is easy. It's one that's going to be able to be moved in time. So, lots of things like that. We'll build houses that basically are the future, so we can change and alter them as you go along. Because every house changes and alter. So why don't you build that in? Have no internal walls that you can just move anywhere you want to. Buildings that can get completely drenched with water will dry out absolutely 100%. Buildings that have got no radon, which got radiation protection, that means that the gases underground will never affect us. All these things should be standard in a house.
I mean, I love your vision. I love your passion. I love, the creativity. I mean, you're a perfect example, because we talk a lot about how, in the industry, it's a lot of like old school thinking and a lot of like the older generation who aren't embracing innovation. But you're the perfect example of somebody who is. You've been in the industry, for as long as you have, and yet you still have the foresight.
I did. I went in this because I couldn't do anything else. I couldn't read and write. I left school at 13. And then lucky enough, I got a carpentry job, and I still can't write a letter now. So, lucky I've got spell check on a computer. But, that is unfortunately, we've got a generation of kids that are getting worse in that way, and they don't want to get into construction now. And that's a wonderful trade to create something from nothing is unbelievable. And when we do work with young kids, we've worked with a group which were young offenders, and they came into our training program, and there was a young lady there. She put her feet on the desk, and she went back, and she had so many earrings in and tattoos. And she said, I don't know why I'm here. I'm bored. And it was like I didn't even start speaking. Anyway, she then went on they built about 20 homes, and she changed her life. She said, I used to go out and knit and do stuff and do drugs. She said, but now I build these passive houses. She says, it changed their life. They've got their own properties now. They've completely changed it. And that was because they could create something and feel worthy. It doesn't matter what you do. If you create something from nothing, it's incredible.
And that is a perfect note to wrap it up on, because you have summed up what I have been saying for a long time, is that you show young people the difference they can make. You give them a purpose, and construction can do that. Construction really can do that for people. Then, then we are going to, we're going to make a change. We're going to make a difference. And I love that story. That's a beautiful story. Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ron.
Pleasure.
There is so much more I could ask you, and I probably will have you on again at some point. Maybe, it'd be great for you to come on maybe at some point and talk more about your new project and
sure.
and kind of where that's going, and maybe we could do a bit of a case study. But in the meantime, can you let people know where it is that they can find you, where they can find out more about Beattie?
Yeah, certainly. We're a new website. We just rebranded. So Beattie is BTIO, so our domain name. So just look on that, and that will be on there. Find out all the information. Case studies there. Go right back 10 years. There's a lot on there, and it's all around delivering quality. Main thing is that every building is tested. If you buy a car, you won't buy a car that's brakes haven't been tested. Why buy a house? Make sure you buy a house that's been thermally, it's been air tested, that's got a quality behind it. Because otherwise, you're going to spend. And if you can get a passive house, grab one. The future is definitely not paying out for gas or electricity.
No, exactly.
And do something about climate change, because we're all going to be either very wet or very hot.
Well, this is it. And this is where I think we really can inspire and encourage the younger generation to get involved. They just need to understand, and know what is available. And I'm driving that. And even just today, I've had another school that have come to me and want me to go and do some work with their sixth form students. So, just the change is happening. The change is happening. I do feel it's happening. It's just not happening as quick as it needs to.
No, it will have to happen. There's no choice. It's just a matter of getting the I think the old school to move aside and let the new ones come along. We'll survive.
Yeah. Well, keep doing what you're doing. And
Thanks very much.
No, thank you. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Please do go check out what Ron is doing. The website is brilliant. There's some great case studies on there if you want to geek out a little bit more on this. Do also please leave us a 5-star review and share this podcast with anybody that you think may find it valuable. Thanks ever so much, Ron.
All the best. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Healed Approach podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review and share it with your network. Let's spread the word and drive the change our industry desperately needs. Stay connected with me on LinkedIn or at rebecca-healed.co.uk. And as always, keep pushing boundaries and making impact. Until next time.